In December 1975, George and Kathleen and their children moved into a house at 112 Ocean Avenue, a large Dutch colonial-style house in Amityville, a suburban neighborhood in southern Long Island, New York. 13 months before the Lutz family moved in, Ronald DeFeo, Jr., the previous owner, had shot dead 6 of his family members in the house. After 28 days the Lutz family lived in the house, they started to feel strange things about the house. This section is based on the book written by Jay Anson, 1977, The Amityville Horror, A True Story. Jay Anson, 1921 to 1980, was the author of The Amityville Horror. House number 112 on Ocean Avenue remained empty for 13 months after the DeFeo murders, until in December 1975 the Lutz family bought the house for $80,000. The house, which has 6 bedrooms, was built in a Dutch colonial style, and has a curved roof. This house is equipped with a swimming pool and a boat storage house. George and Kathy had married in July 1975 and had a home of their own, but wanted to start over with a new home. Kathy has 3 children from a previous marriage: Daniel, 9, Christopher, 7, and Melissa alias Missy, 5. They also have a Labrador dog named Harry. As long as they check when they are going to buy the house. The Lutz family moved into the house on December 18, 1975. Most of the furniture from the DeFeo family is still there, as everything was included in the sale and purchase agreement. A friend of George Lutz had learned about the house's historical past, and insisted that they perform a blessing. But they don't understand the ways. George knew a Catholic priest named Father Ray, and he was willing to perform the blessing. In Anson's book it is stated that the pastor's name is Bapak Mancuso. This is done to protect the priest's privacy. His real name is Bapak Ralph J. Pecoraro. Father Mancuso is a lawyer, Catholic priest, and a psychotherapist living at Sacred Heart Rectory. He arrived to perform the blessing on the afternoon of December 18, 1975 while George and Kathy were unpacking their things. When he shook off the first holy water and started to pray, he heard a clear voice saying, "Come out. Get out." When leaving the house, he did not tell the incident to George or Kathy. On December 24, 1975, Father Mancuso called George Lutz and advised him not to use the room where he had heard the strange sound. This room was the room Kathy planned to use as a sewing room, and was Mark and John Matthew DeFeo's bedroom. The phone conversation was cut off abruptly. At first, George and Kathy Lutz felt nothing out of the ordinary with their home. But then, they felt that each of them lived in a different house. Some of the Lutz family experiences are described as follows. George wakes up around 3:15 every morning, and then goes out to the boathouse. This time is thought to be the time when DeFeo killed his family members. Their house is always disturbed by a swarm of flies every winter. Kathy had nightmares about the murders and the moment she agreed to buy the house. Their children also began to fall asleep on their stomachs, the same position when DeFeo's body was found. Kathy felt as if she was being embraced lovingly by some unseen force. Kathy found a small hidden room, about 4 feet, in the back of the basement. The walls were painted red and the room was not visible on the plans of the house. The room later became known as the Red Room. This room had an effect on their dog Harry, who always refused to come near and always crouched down as if feeling something negative. There is cold air, the smell of perfume and dirt in the house, where there is no air duct or pathway for the source. Their 5-year-old daughter, Missy, tells of her imaginary friend named Jody who has very red eyes. George was always awakened by the slam of the front door. He would immediately go downstairs and find their dog sleeping loudly in front of the door. No one else heard the sound but him. George heard what was described as a German marching band or a sound like a radio that was not tuned to the correct frequency. But when he headed downstairs, the noise would stop. George realized that he bore a strong resemblance to Ronald DeFeo, Jr., and began drinking at the Witch's Brew bar where DeFeo was a customer. While checking the shipyard one night, George saw a pair of bloodshot eyes watching him from Missy's bedroom window. When he went up to look, he found nothing. It was later concluded that it was Jody. While in bed, Kathy got red welts on her chest caused by some unseen force, and she was lifted about 2 feet from her bed. The locks, windows, and doors of the house were damaged by an unseen force. There was a large animal hoof split in the snow which was then associated with a large pig on January 1, 1976. From the wall of the hall and the keyhole of the playroom door in the attic came out green mud. A 12-inch cross that Kathy hung in the restroom was found upside down and was giving off an odor. George tripped over a Chinese lion tile about 4 feet high, which left a bite mark on one of his ankles. George saw Kathy transform into an old woman in her 90s, with untidy hair, a wrinkled and ugly face, and drool dripping from her toothless mouth. After deciding that there was something wrong with their home, which could not be explained rationally, George and Kathy Lutz performed a blessing in their own way on January 8, 1976. George held a silver cross as the two recited the Prayer of the Kings, and from their living room, according to many people's guess, came a chorus of voices asking them to stop. Will you stop? In mid-January 1976, and after George and Kathy's attempted blessing, they experienced what would become their last night in the house. The Lutz family considers that all the events that occur as something very frightening, too frightening. After consulting with Father Mancuso, they decided to collect some of their belongings and decided to stay at Kathy's mother's house near Deer Park, New York. On January 14, 1976, George and Kathy Lutz, along with their 3 children and their dog Harry, left the house and left many things behind the house. The next day, a handyman was assigned to move things to be sent to the Lutz family. He reported that there was an abnormal phenomenon in the house. George and Kathy Lutz are surrounded by media coverage of their case.